Hey guys, Clay here with Old Guy Inc. Welcome to the channel. Do me a favor, please like and subscribe and drop a comment so we can chat a little bit. Because today I want to talk about training versus working out and whether or not you know which one you're doing and why. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by those terms. But first of all, hope everybody's having a great start to their weekend. Hope you had a good week. We just finished family movie night here at the household, which is where we watch old movies and pig out. So that's something else. You know, nutrition in my diet is something that I'll get into at some other point and talk about. I certainly know how to let loose, right? Everything in moderation, including moderation, right? So sometimes you got to let it go. And every once in a while we do that around here and have a good pizza and popcorn and dessert and whatever else we want. So it's a good time, right? You got to know how to balance your life. So another thing you got to know how to do is balance your training. So sometimes I find myself falling into a pattern of only working out. And then all of a sudden, I'll explain what I mean by that. And then the way I figured out is all of a sudden I'll say to myself, man, my weaknesses have gotten larger. I have more weaknesses, or my weaknesses are even weaker than they used to be. And I find myself just kind of getting frustrated until I realize, well, that's because you've just been working out. You haven't been training. So I'm going to explain to you what I mean by just working out. So a lot of times, if you are following affiliate programming, you have to understand that affiliates are kind of hogtied in what they can do, right? They have to cater to a large audience. They have to cater to a certain time frame, and they have to make sure that they can have a product that's reproducible class after class. And so that's working out. That's when you just go to class, you follow class programming, you run a WOD. Normally, that WOD is in general fairly short, high intensity, which of course is great. That's CrossFit. But you're not going to have a lot of accessory type work. There's not going to be a lot of time spent practicing gymnastics skills and working on technique work. Now, hey, if you go to a good gym and you have good coaches, I mean, you're getting coaching cues. You are doing skill work as it lends itself to a large group environment in a short amount of time. But for the most part, you're just trying to knock out your warm-up, do your strength component where hopefully you're getting, coaching cues and progressing. And then you're going to move into your Metcon. You're going to talk about your Metcon. The coach is going to help everybody figure out what scales and progressions they're doing. Then you're going to knock out that Metcon at a high intensity. You're going to get it done. You're going to feel like, hey, I had a great workout today. The problem with that is a lot of gyms are, let's say most gyms aren't doing rope climbs. Most because they don't have a class set of ropes. Lots of gyms aren't doing GHDs. How many gyms do you know that have a class set of GHDs? I could keep going. A lot of times there's limited rig space. A lot of times there's limited rings. And just the fact that so few people are proficient at the advanced gymnastics, like muscle ups, chest to bar pull-ups. Trainers, head coaches, owners, they do what they should do when they're running a business, and that is they tend over time to cater to their clientele. And let's just be honest, a lot of clientele complain. I don't want to do rope climbs, or I don't want to do chest to bar pull-ups, or not muscle ups, they're so hard. And I get it, because it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Because it's so hard for so many folks, because there's limited equipment. Like most times you're not going to go to a gym. I mean, if there's a gym out there, I want to hear about it. Like if you drop this in the comments, if you go to a gym that has a set of rings hanging from the ceiling that can accommodate one pair for every single member who's in the class, like hit me up right now in the comments, because I want to give a huge shout out to that. I mean, I'm not saying that gyms can be doing that regularly, but This is a prime example of why so many people struggle with muscle ups, ring muscle ups in particular. It's because if you want to work at it during a class setting, in a 60-minute class where you're going to have 10 to 20 people, depending on how your gym structures your classes, you might only have 3, 4, 5 sets of rings in that entire gym, and they're all going to be at different heights. So accommodating like a session of training where everybody gets on the rings and everybody works on where they are in their progression doesn't happen very often. So what happens is normally immediately when everybody, including the coach, sees that there's muscle ups in the workout, it's immediately like, okay, what scale are you doing? What scale are you doing? What scale are you doing? Okay, you're doing burpees and jumping pull-ups. Okay, you're just going to do... There's not even enough rings to say, hey, we're all going to be on the rings and we're all going to work on a progression towards a ring muscle up at whatever progression we're at, but at least we're on the rings. Okay. So that's working out, is when you go to the gym and you just hit a warm up, you hit a strength component, you hit a Metcon, and you get a great workout. But there's not a lot of training. There's not a lot of skill development. There's not a lot of time spent on specific areas in particular to you that are weak. So when I start realizing that, because, hey, hold on, let me say this. Because working out is fun, okay? Going to a class workout, running a WOD, racing the clock, racing other people, having fun, chasing a score or reps or, whatever motivates you is loads of fun. Loads of fun. Checking out where you are on the leaderboard. You have certain people you know of that are in like the 6 a.m. class that are kind of close to you, and you go in the evening and you check their score. That's working out. And that is totally fun. There's nothing wrong with it. It motivates me all the time. But sometimes I get sucked up into that, and then all of a sudden I realize, man, all of a sudden I'm just like, why aren't I as strong anymore? Why are my Olympic lifts not as proficient? Why are my gymnastics starting to not feel so good? And then I realize, okay, it's because you got away from your training. And unfortunately, training is tough. Training takes a little bit more time and it needs to be more individualized. And so it's hard to do if all you're doing is going into a class setting. So like for me in particular, I'm doing this right now. I'm 49 years old. I'm getting ready to turn 50 and I'm ramping up to make a run at being the best I can be in the 50 and 50 to 54 division. Not that I have any, delusions of going to the games or anything, but I'd like to do the best that I can do. And I'd like to be better like I used to be. And I think I can be that good again. But the last couple years, I've spent most of my time just working out. And so now what I'm doing is I've tried to commit to no more than 2 workouts per week. So what does that mean? It means I try to only go to the gym to participate in a full class WOD and only the class WOD 2 days a week. So I go in and I'm racing. I'm hitting that class workout of the day. I'm going as hard as I can. I'm shooting for a score and I'm having a blast and I'm sprawled out on the floor. It's great. But without, I don't know if I can pull a specific workout out of the air, but you can do some brutal workouts. Well, let's talk about Fran, for example. I hate Fran. You could run Fran in a class workout and absolutely destroy every person in that class. Right? 21, 15, 9, thrusters and pull-ups. You give a good effort, you try to beat that clock, and you're going to be wrecked. Everybody in the gym is going to be wrecked, and you're going to get a great workout. Unfortunately, the volume isn't really there for training. The weight isn't there for training. If all you're doing is 45 thrusters and 45 chin over bar pull-ups, and your goal is to be more proficient on a competitive level, or just to get much stronger, advance your gymnastics past regular pull-ups, that is just not a volume that I would consider training. So if you get sucked up into that, you're not going to progress as much. So I limit that to 2 times per week. What I try to do the other 3 to 4 days a week is train. So whether that means I go to open gym, or I work out in my garage, or I do a combination of open gym, working out in my garage, or maybe also hitting the class workout. So I'm doing 2 workouts a day. I start training. So I kind of have to sit down and do my own programming. So I look at the 2 workouts that I'm going to do at my affiliate, and then I try to gauge around that. And then I decide what am I going to do on my other days, where I'm going to spend a lot more time working on strength, making sure I get in my Olympic lifts, because spending a lot of time on clean and jerks in particular is very hard in the class setting because it's so intensive on the coach, because there's so much coaching and cues involved in getting an entire class to be lifting Olympic lifts safely and efficiently, that it's just hard to spend a lot of time doing that, because you've also got to do your warm-up. You also got to get your workout in. You have the 60-minute window typically. There's just not a lot of time there to really dive into some heavy-duty Olympic lifting training. So you end up just doing a lot of more simple things like hitting squats real quick, hitting deadlifts real quick, which are super awesome. Nothing's against that. A lot of shoulder press, push press, but they're much simpler to coach and to observe and walk around, and you can do them kind of quickly. It just takes longer if you're running a class through Snatch, because you're going to be working with a lot more people individually, and it's going to take a lot more time if you're doing a good job. So unfortunately, most gyms just don't spend the amount of time that I think not that they should, because like I said, I understand that it's hard, but from an athlete standpoint, I don't get as much work during those class settings. So once again, going back to this, I have to make sure that I'm training. So I need to plan in my week significantly more time to spend on my Olympic lifts in particular, because they take a little bit longer to make sure you're dialing in your form and your technique. And then also, I still need to keep doing the pure strength components like presses, squats, and deadlifts, as well as then also working in the dynamic Olympic lifts. So I need to spend a lot more time doing that. Now, gymnastics is a whole other story. Once again, I'm going to consider gymnastics a wide variety of things, everything from rope climbing, handstand push-ups, I don't know, toes to bar, running, anything that takes minimal weight, if any, on the body, I'm going to consider gymnastics. So once again, I already talked about GHDs. Most gyms only have 1 or 2 of those at best, a couple ropes, if any, a couple sets of rings, and sometimes not even enough space for every single member of the class to have a pull-up bar at their height that works for them. So even regular pull-ups sometimes can be a challenge to have everybody really working on them. So I have to make sure that I set aside enough time during my training sessions to get in good volume work at all of the different gymnastic movements. So if I'm going to be working on kipping, handstand push-ups, deficit handstand push-ups, strict handstand push-ups, I mean, that's a lot of training involved in trying to hit all those different types of handstand push-ups throughout a week of training in my month, in a larger training period. And I can't do everything in one day. So I have to schedule my training out a little bit more in advance and kind of make sure, like, hey, how long has it been since I've worked on my handstand walking? I mean, you're not going to see a lot of handstand walking in class. Most gyms don't have tons and tons of open space where everybody can be handstand walking safely, simultaneously. So I could go on and on and on about all these different kind of specific aspects of fitness that you just can't spend a lot of time training in class. And then I think sometimes it surprises people, right? And so they're like, man, I've been, coming to CrossFit for so long and I still can't do toes to bar. I can't string them together, or I still can't do handstand walks. I'm like, well, have you really been training them? I mean, have you spent a significant amount of time trying to get them? And the answer probably is no. Now, your back squat and your front squat probably looks pretty damn good, right? Because you spend a lot of time. You're getting coached. Elbows up, knees out, chest up. Like you're training and getting coaching cues very frequently on those sort of lifts. And so you become proficient at those pretty quick, but then you turn around and you're like, I'm just not good at gymnastics. And that's not really true. The difference is you've been training more in your strength component and the simpler things, but my snatch still sucks. My overhead squat sucks. Well, look at the programming at your gym. How many times are you back squatting or front squatting or deadlifting compared to how many times you're squat snatching or overhead squatting? It's probably like 10 to 1, okay? And I can say the same thing about rope climbs, ring muscle ups. How many times does your class programming call for ring muscle ups? And more importantly, how many times, if ever, is everybody on the rings, kind of like I talked about, and not just immediately going to, what's my scale for ring muscle ups today? And then you keep just running those workouts with those scales and you're not ever actually training. So there you have it. Hopefully some of that made some sense. In my mind, there's a huge difference between working out every day and then training. And you have to find that balance that works for you. If you just want to work out and you don't have any specific goals, then hit the class WODs every day. They're amazing. I love class WODs. I coach class WODs. They are great. If you're somebody who's been CrossFitting for a while and you're interested in a little bit more than just total general fitness, you actually are starting to get frustrated. Like, hey, I want these goddamn double unders. I want to string together my toes to bar. I want to get handstand walking. I want to get that first muscle up. I really want to work on my Olympic lifts, etc. Okay. If you just keep sitting around and waiting for your class workouts to get you better at those, there's a good chance it's not going to happen. What you need to do is start looking at training more specifically, finding time. Go in and use those open gym times. Okay? Find time to work out at home if you have some equipment, but you're going to have to put in a little bit more effort training to reach those goals. So there you go, guys. Thanks for listening. Once again, please drop me some comments. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking. What are your thoughts on working out and training? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to hear it. Please like and subscribe.